What's up YouTube, it's FitzBro. We are here once again on the Xbox playing Age of Empires 4, and this is gonna be my beginner's guide part 2. If you didn't see the part 1, go check it out on my channel. I've got a lot of tips and tricks that are not in the tutorial that you will want to know if you are playing on this controller. By the way, we hit rank number 1 on the ladder, so I bet you these tips will help you out. We're gonna be going over just some continuation on some of the tips from the last video and just some ones that I think are a little bit more advanced, shall we say, that is really going to help take your gameplay to the next level. So let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to show you guys is very, very important. So you're going to get raided, right? You might be French knights running into your base, longbows, whatever it is, and you need to garrison your villagers quickly. Now in other Age of Empires games, you might be used to selecting your town center and hitting a town bell, but you see there's nothing like that here. And while you could manually select your villagers and tell them to garrison, the best thing you're going to want to do is select the villagers that you want to hide in the town center, and all you have to do is click Y. Watch this. I click Y, they're going to seek shelter at the nearest tower or town center or keep, whatever it is. And if you want them to go back to work, you select the building they're garrisoned in, and then you hit X. And they'll go back to where what they were doing. In this case, they were just idle. But say if I had, you know, like some farming, some getting stone, whatever, and I hit Y on a bunch of them, they jump inside the town center, and then hit X, they'll go back to work. So that's a good way to keep your villagers safe when those raids come in, and it's going to be a really helpful tip. Now, speaking of keeping your villagers safe, we talked about the villager managed priority system, right? And that you can do custom or the presets. I really would recommend, if you want to get to the next level, not using this priority system. It's going to make your villagers do some stranger behavior, especially as you get into the middle to late stages of the game. For instance, if a knight is raiding your wood and you've distributed this percentage onto wood, it will keep pulling villagers from other places to come over here, and they will just all get slaughtered. So that's one case, but I think in general you need to be taking an active role in managing your economy. So maybe use it for getting started, but try to wean yourself off of it. A tip that I really liked is for making farms. So you want to be able to make farms quickly for a food source, and it's going to be a nice safe source here in the later stages of the game. Of course, different food resources are going to be different gather rates. Farms are going to be one of the slower ones. For the English, they've got some bonuses, but just be aware of that. You don't want to farm right away. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we want to build some farms. And one way you could do it is you could select these villagers. 8 villagers fit around a farm perfectly. I've got 11 here, but 8 is the number you need. And you could pull up the farm in the economy radial. That was a mining camp, okay? And what you want to do is hold left trigger, which is going to be like shift from the PC. You can hold down left trigger, and then if you have your cursor over top of the mill, you can just keep tapping A and watch. It'll go in a perfect, almost a perfect circle right around it. I screwed it up because let's try that again. I think I pointed at a villager. It could all just also be broken, which could be the case on Xbox. So we'll try that one more time. So the bottom line here is, though, you want to use the shift and click on the middle of that. Honestly, on the Xbox, it's not the end of the world if your farms aren't perfect, because it's really about just trying to get all these actions executed quickly. Okay, so I've got my 8 villagers. I'm going to select my farm. I'm going to hold shift in the middle here, and it will go right around, and look at that, perfect square. Okay, they're going to go ahead and now build that, and it's going to be very nice. Now, one of the ways I like to do this quickly is, like, typically say you've got like these villagers, right? And I want them to farm. Well, you can do, you're going to queue this up, and then you could go to the farms, and like you could do that certainly. As one way is like to hold shift and do that. But what I like to do is, I'm a little lazier because that takes a lot of time. Is what I'll do is I'll like tell them to go build the farm, and then I'll be off microing, doing something else with my army, and I wait until they go idle for just like a second. Man, you got to remember they're there. And then what I like to do is, instead of like, you know, in the moment trying to pull up the radial and, you know, find the farms or whatever it might be, what you can do instead is just click on the farm. And if you hold the context menu, so if I cover over the farm with nothing selected and hold right trigger, you see, just like the mining camps and lumber camps and stuff, the first thing it tells you to build is a farm. And so that you can access that very quickly, and then you can hold your shift, you know, your left trigger, and build all those. So that's the way that I've been building the farms, and it's it really helps me out because I find that, you know, if you've got one of these build menus, say like the last thing I built was a barracks, and then I select these villagers and I pull up this build menu, like I first have to like navigate through here, press D-pad, find the farm, find the mill, build it. Like it's a lot of steps to do, and I would rather just you know, select the context menu, build a mill, forget about it for a second, and then come back to it, and then do the technique where I told you, where you hover over top of it, and then, you know, shift those farms around. So that's the way I've been building farms, and it really helps me out. Okay, another tip that I want to bring your attention to is going to be down here in your mini-map and your camera specifically. So you can pull your mini-map up with the right bumper, and I'll admit I don't use my mini-map a ton for navigation. I find myself, you know, panning across the map like you've probably done. But what's really going to help you is using camera waypoints. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come down here and say this is the enemy base right here, and I want to be able to easily snap to this position. If you press down on both joysticks at the same time, it will give yourself a camera waypoint. Now, you can see it on the maps, it's there. You can see, you know, that flag right there. And you don't actually need to put one in your main base, because if you press down, it's going to always automatically go to your town center. So I don't actually put a waypoint in my base personally. Maybe you want to put one back here in the farms as you're doing your little idle trick like I showed you, right? But so I've got that waypoint set, and now I'm in my base doing stuff, doing economy things, and I want to go see my enemy's base. Maybe I'm doing a fight. Now I can, to access those waypoints, you hold left trigger, and then your right joystick is essentially your navigation between those waypoints. So, and it's directional. So if it's down and to the left, you got to push down to the left to get to it. And you see, look, I'm able to press down on the D-pad to get my base, waypoint down there. So that's a really nice tip for skipping around. And I'll be honest, I like to use just one waypoint in my enemy's base a lot of times, because I find when I have multiple of them, it gets a little weird navigating between them. So like I'm gonna try right now, and you'll notice it doesn't always seem to hit like where I'm trying to go. So I think this could be improved. And for this reason, I would say don't add too many waypoints, because it's a little clunky to move between them. But if you have just one, it's very easy. So again, now say I want to clear them. If you press down on the D-pad once, it'll clear the previous waypoint, you see? Or if I hold down on the D-pad, it gets rid of all of the waypoints and you can start over. So, you know, what I'd recommend is like you're attacking the enemy, put a waypoint, go back, do your economy things, you know, jump back to that waypoint by holding left trigger using the right joystick, and then maybe when you're done with that fight, you know, pull your menu up, remove that, and then go put it somewhere else. And that's going to be very helpful for managing your economy and your attack at the same time. Now, another thing I'm going to really recommend doing is setting your, an easy way to set all of your military waypoints. So let me build some more military buildings and etc. here. Okay, so we're gonna have a barracks, we have an archery range, we've got a council hall. Now, if you don't set a waypoint, they're just gonna spawn right underneath this building, right? If I train a longbow here, it's just going to spawn right here, and then I've got to select it or select all military, etc. But generally, when you're on attack, you want to have your waypoint somewhere across the map, or maybe you want all your army to group up in a particular area. So instead of manually setting each one of these buildings and then, you know, hey, maybe you've advanced this position, now you want them to go here, it's going to be really cumbersome to keep doing this. And you're going to be adding more and more military buildings as you go throughout the game. The way you're going to want to do this is press left bumper, which is going to bring up this find menu. Now you can have this find menu on either quick find buildings or units. I don't like to ever use the buildings one. Like, I think the units could be useful. I like to keep it on this quick find menu because remember, it will remember your previous setting. So if I have it, you know, left bumper, I look at buildings last, and then I pull it up again, it's going to have buildings selected. So I like to leave it on the left radial for the quick find. And then if you go up to this top here, this will be all of your military production buildings. Now, if you click X, you can actually cycle through them, which you don't really need to do. What you want to do is press A, and now from across the field, I can train up longbows, spearmen, man-at-arms, whatever it is. You press X on the unit, it actually will upgrade them. But most importantly, I can set a rally point for all those buildings. So I pressed left bumper, I came into here, and now watch this. I set a rally point here. All of my units that spawn are now going to rally to this position. So this is going to really help you to get your army where it needs to be for your attack. So once again, left bumper. I'm on the quick find directional pad to the left menu. Then you press A to get into here, and then you're going to set your rally points. It takes a few actions, of course, but it's certainly faster than selecting, 4 barracks and setting the waypoints from being across the map. So that really helps me out quite a bit. Okay, so we talked about building farms. We talked about garrisoning by pressing Y and X to keep your villagers safe. We talked about getting those waypoints set. When it comes to microing your army, let me get a few units chained up here. Oh, I'm gonna need some houses in order to do that. I've of course got auto training villagers up right now, so not a big surprise that I'm pop capped. So I'm going to get some longbows. I really think a lot of the Xbox gameplay is going to revolve around either individually selecting a few units and making them attack here and there and there. And then it's also going to be a combination of, if you press left on the D-pad and you hold that, it will select all of your military units, which can be nice for getting your whole army together. Just select your whole army. Now, if you're doing your big attack, that's really nice. You want to use X when you're moving for attack move, because that's going to be important so they attack as they move. Self-explanatory. But what I found to be very effective is, like, if I'm over here and say this is my opponent's base, I'll select all my military, tell them to attack here, and then I might come back and just grab like one longbow or one man arms and be like, look for where their food is. That's generally the resource early on. It's easy to raid, either their food or their gold, most likely. So like just send like one man arms over to their berries or to one of their deer patches, because it takes a lot of control to try to avoid your incoming raid, and you could have one knight or man arm over here like just doing work on the deer. And there's so many times I've been playing against people where my main battle's going on and they're distracted with that, and I've just got one man arms off to the side killing a lot of villagers. And the more villagers you kill, you're gonna be further ahead because you're gonna have more resources than your opponent, and then you can age up and do that. And speaking of aging up and attacking your opponent, I really feel so far that going to the castle age and winning when you've got armored units is going to be a really good way to win the game. Now, you might perfect doing some of your cheese and some of your rush, but I think it's hard to really get a high level of micro you need to manage a feudal push or a feudal rush. But in the castle age, you're going to have armored units that can survive easier underneath the enemy towns in there. So for that reason, I've been doing one of my favorite strategies is the Abbasid Dynasty, age up with the culture wing, and then I like to get a cheaper age up because of preservation of knowledge technology, and then going up and making a bunch of ghulams, which are man arms, which are going to be armored, and then you can just start rallying those things at the opponent's base. And if you use the tactics like I mentioned, where it's you send one here, you send one there, and it really isn't something super fancy. It's just you grab one of them as they're moving across the field and send them over there. But you just got to remember not to select all of your military all the time, otherwise you might undo the work you just did there. So those are some more advanced tips and tricks. As always, don't forget to use that context radial if you press down on the right trigger over top of resources to pull up, the building that's going to be the best to build, or maybe it's for capturing a relic, which you can do there. It'll send the nearest monk to get the relic. But I hope these tips are useful to you. If they were, please leave me a comment down below, and it really helps my channel out if you give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. So thank you so much for watching. Check out my other guides on YouTube, and I've also been playing live streaming Xbox AoE4, where we're currently rank 1 on the ladder. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.